Hey everyone. All right. So what is this whole Team Doug thing? Who are these Dougs? Well, they represent different elements of my personality. They are caricatures, that's a difficult word to say, yeah, of different elements of me. And I've decided to include them in the Revival Health platform as an acknowledgement, a representation of this funky idea, which is this idea that we are not actually a single individual entity or being, but we are actually a compendium of different voices. Dude, what are you doing? Talking about the voices? They're gonna think we're some sort of nutcase. Remember, we actually want people to watch these videos. Hey SD, how you doing? Good morning. Yeah, good, thanks. Great. Now shut up, all right? Because I think they actually will appreciate what it is that I'm talking about, okay? Well, I guess we'll find out. Sorry about that. All right, so let me explain a little bit better, right? So these multiple voices or different aspects of our personalities, well, they combine to create all the complexity and all the inconsistencies and all the peculiarities that represent each one of us as unique human beings. And these voices and the complexity that they generate, well, they have a huge impact on how we manage or don't manage our health and vitality. Now, if this is not making any sense to you, let me give you an example, right? So think about, Doug, don't forget to ask them to subscribe. Huh? To subscribe to the channel. That's what this YouTube thing is all about. We need the subscriptions. I mean, we're just launching our channel, so we gotta ramp those subscriptions up as fast as possible. That's what this is all about. No, that's not what it's about. We're trying to help people with their health and vitality. That's what we're trying to achieve, remember? Yeah, no, of course, that goes without saying, but we need those clicks. Okay, CD, I get it, right? But if we just focus on making really good content, then I assume that the subscriptions, that they'll follow naturally, right? Good content and marketing. You need to step up your game. Dude, you're stressing me out, as always. Chill. And what's with the cycling jersey, by the way? We're not riding today. Oh, I know. But we had to give them some sort of visual cue, you know, besides my charming personality, so that they know that it's CD, right? So it was either this or a sports jacket and tie. I mean, which would you prefer? Fair enough. You're right. And it's certainly better than AD in that ridiculous cap and scarf. Whoa, whoa, whoa. CD, remember, this is a genuine Scottish flat cap that we bought on our trip to that great country, the mecca of single malt whiskeys. I mean, all right, well, it was made in Taiwan, but I'm sure it was designed in Scotland. And the French, well, the French love to wear scarves, right? So, whiskey, wine, get it? By the way, Doug, is this gonna take a long time? Because it's getting pretty close to happy hour. Hey, D, it's 10 a.m. in the morning. I mean, I still got a lot of work to do for us. Oh, right. You're gonna tell me it's 6 p.m. somewhere in the world, right? So it must be time for happy hour. Exactly, ATP. Now you're catching on. We gotta get that guy's nose out of the research and into a glass containing some fine alcohol. Guys, hey everyone, can we focus please? All right? Can we remember please that I'm actually running the show here? Yeah, right. You win. Yeah, that's a good one, Zach. Okay, I get it. You win. We're a team. All right, so but just please let me finish here, right? So we can get through this. So let me give you a concrete example about managing the voices, although you're seeing one right here as well. Let's say that you're on a diet, right? So you're trying to change your eating habits, or you're trying to lose weight, whatever your objectives may be. And you've been doing really well for a few days, but then it's Friday night and you go out to dinner with your friends. Now, the main meal, you're solid as a rock, you know, you order what you should, but then the waiter comes to take the order for dessert. Now, think about how many voices then show up in your noggin, each one trying to influence and shift and shape what it is that you actually decide to do. And it's interesting when you think about it, like, you know, what's the outcome? You never really know what it's going to be. Well, in my case, you know, what happens is the following. So I'm out to dinner with the friends or whatever it is. And at some point, I've decided, you know what? I think I've had enough to drink, at least for tonight, right? And that's when AD always shows up, right? So AD, what would you say at that point? Huh? Oh yeah. No, that's easy. I start with, dude, it's Friday night. You're out with some friends. Live a little. Have one more drink. That's true. You usually start with that one. And what happens if I don't immediately give in, but I put up a little bit of resistance? Then what? Oh yeah, that's no problem. I'd go with, you know what, Doug? You're right. But let's do the following. Let's have a couple more drinks tonight because we're out with friends. And then tomorrow, we'll skip the booze altogether to compensate. Oh yeah, that's a good one. And who usually wins? Ha! Are you kidding? That's a good one. I win every time. No, not all the time. But I do admit that AD wins a lot of the time, and probably much more than I'd actually like. But, you know, he's a very convincing guy, and he's got a lot of good arguments. So, you know, with health and vitality, this is the type of stuff that actually happens all the time, right? Because we often know what we should do or need to do, but then there's this thing called life and navigating our daily routine and managing all of these voices, right? So, Doug, I think you should drink a little less. Well, tell that to AD. Or Doug, you know, you should really try to manage your chronic stress. CD, what do you think about that? And this goes on, right? Is this making any sense? I hope so. The inclusion of the Dougs in the Revival Health platform is precisely to acknowledge and to recognize how difficult it is to make these permanent changes, right? It's not just about knowing what you need to do, but it's actually also figuring out how to manage these voices and actually make the changes stick, right? And the objective of this video, although they've all sort of jumped in already, was to introduce the Dougs. But I'm gonna jump over to the computer, finish the introductions, and talk a little bit more about what the role is of each of the Dougs in the platform going forward. All right, so let's head over there. All right, so starting with me, I'm gonna split this between an inwardly view and an outwardly view, right? So outwardly, my name is Doug Woods, and first and foremost, I consider myself to be a member of an amazing group of individuals in which my roles include husband, father, son, brother, uncle, friend. It's a lot of roles, and those are by far my most important roles in life and are what provide me with motivation and with purpose. Now, I've also held a lot of professional roles. You can see that on the page here, starting off as an engineer, but then spending a lot of time as a strategy and management consultant, culminating in managing director and senior partner. Now, that sounds impressive. And then more recently, I've been experimenting new hats such as researcher, writer, and creator. So that's Doug Woods outwardly. Inwardly, stepping out of all those roles, it's just Doug. And I live right here, a couple inches behind my forehead. And what I'm trying to do is to keep the whole shit show that is Doug Woods on the rails as much as possible. Navigating life, trying to figure out what it means to be a good person, doing my best to put that into practice, and of course failing miserably each day, but at least trying to take 10 steps forward for every 9 steps back. And I'll be your host on the Revival Health and Vitality platform. I will usually open and close each of the videos, and I'm going to try to drive home the recommendations in terms of what I believe will help you achieve lifelong health and vitality. And my motto is balance is everything. So that's me. Now let's step through the Dougs. Starting with Nerdy Doug, who we call ATP. Let's have a look at his strengths. So he's naturally curious, loves to learn, very good at solving problems, particularly getting into like really complex topics and then making those easier to understand via analogy, frameworks, stories, and so forth. Most importantly for the platform, he absolutely loves the science, particularly everything to do with the human body, not just the biology and the metabolism and so forth, but also the mind and the soul, which is why he loves books on psychology, on philosophy, religion, etc. In terms of weaknesses, well, ATP does often get lost in the details and sometimes can actually be paralyzed if there's too much information. Now, he's very introverted, which, is not a weakness in and of itself, but it means he often forgets to engage with people, right? So he may have like a really interesting insight or idea or suggestion, but then he forgets that unless he actually shares it with someone, then it won't have any impact. And finally, he can be a bit ingenuous at times, which will take us to the next Doug, right? ATP's motto is "The truth shall set you free." And in terms of the platform, ATP is the key guy, right? Because he does all the heavy lifting in terms of getting into the science, the research, the facts, and the figures to make sure that I have a very solid fact base in terms of coming up with the recommendations on health and vitality that I provide to you. So that is ATP. Next is Skeptical Doug, or SD. Now, his main strength is that he is very savvy and street smart, right? And particularly is very good at sort of beyond that first level, looking underneath that and sniffing out underlying motivations or hidden agendas that might be influencing what is being said or discussed. So he is not easily manipulated or fooled. Now, not really a strength or a weakness, but just a part of his personality is that he's quite nonconformist. So he does have a deep mistrust of institutions. In terms of weaknesses, well, he's overly cynical, very pessimistic, tends to fixate on the negative side of things, and is always looking to tear things down, doesn't trust anyone, and perhaps most importantly, he's stubborn, right? So while he has no problem tearing down and criticizing other people's ideas and arguments, he does tend to like to hold on to and is quite fond of our own ideas. So, we need to be careful that SD doesn't sort of shut us off from new perspectives, new ideas, or contradictory data and information that we may be coming across. Now, SD's motto is "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." Now, SD's role on the platform is mainly to team up with Nerdy Doug, right? So Nerdy Doug, he looks at the science and goes after the objective truth. Now, for topics such as nutrition, physical activity, mental well-being, etc., that's already very difficult because these are extraordinarily complex topics and they're actually quite difficult to investigate, at least in the sense of arriving at concrete conclusions. So that's what ATP is focused on. And then SD, well, he's focused on everything else, right? So depending on who's bringing us the information, he looks at, well, how much is this simply individual ego? Commercial interests. Now, commercial interests are omnipresent in this field, so you always have to be thinking about that potential conflict of interest, but it's also political agendas, institutional objectives, ideologies, anything that can be introducing bias or conflict of interest into the discussion, right? And unfortunately, these two spheres in the world of health and vitality, they overlap completely. That creates a huge amount of noise. And so Nerdy Doug and Skeptical Doug work together to achieve credibility and to lend confidence that we've looked at everything from all the perspectives so that we can be super confident in any recommendations that we bring in terms of health and vitality. Okay, so the next two Dougs, shifting a bit, they represent elements of my personality that make it more difficult for me to successfully manage my health and vitality. They are the ones that get me off track, in other words. So starting with Competitive Doug, or CD, now his strengths are he's ambitious, he's driven, he's persistent, and most importantly, he's resilient, right? So he does not give up easily, which means that he delivers on objectives. He gets things done. Now I have to tip my hat to CD because I've essentially relied on him for all of my achievements and my accomplishments in life. He's the one pushing me through when things get difficult. Now, CD does have one important weakness, which is basically he's an asshole. Well, it's true, he is. And why is that? Well, it's because he is obsessed with status and success. Now, not so much power. Power has never really been his thing, but he does care a lot about what other people think of him. He's very worried about where we slot in the various hierarchies of life, and is always looking to climb up to the next rung. And he wants to be seen as a success, right? Now, the problem with that is that that makes him much more concerned about us than with other people. And I can definitely say that CD has been the underlying source of many of my largest regrets and F-ups that I've made in this life. And CD's mottos are no pain, no gain. That's a classic. And another, which is, if at first you don't succeed, well, try harder, you loser. So you can see that CD is also my inner voice, or my inner critic as well. And the challenge with CD in terms of my health and vitality is that because he's so obsessed with success and status and so forth, is that he'll often get me focused on things which are actually not important at all, in the big picture. And then I won't focus enough on things which actually are important for my health and well-being, such as my relationships with other people. And the other thing is that he's just intense, right? So he keeps me stressed out all the time. I mean, my index fingers here, they're slightly curved, right? Because I've got some premature arthritis, which I blame CD for keeping me stressed out, for extended periods over the course of my career and so forth, right? So have to, manage CD, otherwise he'll get me going down the wrong track. That's CD. And last but not least, Alcoholic Doug, or AD. Now, what are AD's strengths? Well, he's fun. He's got a great sense of humor. He enjoys life, particularly like those little daily pleasures, like that first cup of coffee, or zoning out, watching Netflix, those things we need to make it through this thing called life. And he keeps things light and enjoyable. And importantly for me, given other aspects of my personality, he's optimistic, which is great. But what are his weaknesses? Well, not so good on the discipline and actually, pushing through to the end on things. Easily distracted, loves to procrastinate. Don't let AD, get into YouTube when we actually need to get something done. And he's the one always looking for that short-term pleasure and escape. And the main challenge with AD, at least from a health perspective, is that with AD, enough is not enough, right? He is not able to set limits. So, and as his name suggests, with me, it's a challenge of keeping the alcohol to the 1 or 2 drinks, which the science indicates is okay each day from a health perspective. If it's up to AD, it very quickly goes to the 3rd or 4th drink or beyond. AD's mottos are don't worry, be happy, and carpe diem. And he also loves this quote or this joke from Woody Allen, which is, you can live to be 100 as long as you're willing to give up all the things that actually make you want to live to 100. And that's actually a clever provocation from AD, because all these things that we do for our health and vitality, they have to be a means, not an end, right? And we can't become so obsessed with them that we actually stop enjoying life. Now, where I would disagree with Woody is that I actually don't think that's true. I think you can do what is necessary to have lifelong health and vitality and actually enjoy each and every day, and it will be full of, of pleasures and things which make it enjoyable and fun, right? So that's AD, and clearly AD from a health perspective, I mean, it's the classic challenge, right? He's that part which I think lives in all of us, which would prefer the short-term pleasure and the short-term gain, and unfortunately in the process ends up compromising what we're trying to achieve in the longer term. All right, so those are the Dougs, at least the relevant ones in terms of this platform. Now, there is another very important and central character to the Revival Health and Vitality platform, which I would be remiss not to mention, which is Charlie. And I've talked about Charlie in other videos, but Charlie represents our DNA and the intrinsic intelligence at work within our body that regulates our health and our vitality. Now, why isn't Charlie one of the Dougs? Well, I'm not in touch with Charlie. So I can't talk to him. I can't tell him what to do. I can't influence him. So I don't consider him to be part of Team Doug, but he is someone that I have to appreciate and always seek to understand what would Charlie or what is Charlie doing in this circumstance or in this context that may be impacting my health and vitality. And particularly when we get into the science, we're always going to be talking about and thinking about Charlie. All right. And with that, we wrap up the introduction to Team Doug. This is the team which is going to be working hard to bring you the best possible advice for achieving lifelong health and vitality. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out the other videos on the channel. Please subscribe, all that good stuff. You know, click, click, click. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Cheers.